All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our October 29th Haddonfield Public Schools Board meeting. We have, I'll call the meeting to order, and I will ask Mike to take roll.
Mr. Bedford. Here. Ms. Crooked.
Here.
Ms. Hogue.
Here.
Ms. Hogarth.
Here.
Ms. Kuttner. Ms. Paoli.
Here.
Mr. Vecchio.
Here.
Vice President Seidel.
Here.
President Sangillo.
Here, let's rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mike, would you read us the statement concerning public meetings?
Public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the Superintendent of Schools in the following manner. On January 10th, 2020, notice of this meeting was posted on the interior of the school administration offices, 1 Lincoln Avenue, Haddonfield. Written notice was submitted and filed to the Haddonfield Borough Clerk, and notices were faxed to the Courier Post and mailed to the Retrospect newspaper.
Thank you, Mike. All right, we're going to get started. We're instituting some old practices, or we're renewing some practices. We're going to commend some students who have made us proud. I'm going to ask Tammy to take us out here.
Thank you, Mr. Sangillo. I'm excited to see all the students' faces on the grid. Not that I don't like seeing the board members. So we're going to start. We have 3 areas to recognize our students. So after I say each individual name, they're going to repeat their name slowly so their face comes up on the screen and that we don't just see me. The College Board Recognition Program creates pathways to college for students from underrepresented communities by awarding them academic honors and connect them with universities across the country. We are super excited to announce that we have 8 students that are recipients. We're going to start, and we'll see if he's here. Jesse Eibel Hargrove. Okay. Makai Rippey. Unmute, Makai. Say your name.
Makai Rippey. Hello.
There you go. Thank you, Makai. Chloe Santana.
Hi, I'm Chloe Santana.
Is Mr. David Little here? We have John Hurley. We have Alessandra Maiucci. Cameron Fortunato.
Hi, I'm Cameron Fortunato.
Hi, Cameron. Congratulations. And we have Eden Kessler.
Hi, I'm Eden Kessler.
Did everyone get to see? There you are, Eden. Did everyone get to see the students? I know this is awkward. You guys are my first time doing it this way, so we'll probably come up with something fancy next time. Our next recognition is for our commended students, which recognizes our students for their outstanding academic progress. They are named based on a nationally applied selection index score, and our commended students are Ms. Tova Bass. Unmute. Tova Bass. There you go. We have, again, Jesse Eibel Hargrove. We have Josephine Faust. John Hurley, which I saw that he joined. John Hurley, say your name, John.
I am John.
Thanks, John. This isn't awkward at all for me. Alexa King. Is Alexa here? I emailed her. Okay. We'll try David Little again. Did he come in? He's also one of our commended students. We have Catherine McCormick. Olivia Stoner.
Hi, I'm Olivia Stoner.
And Peyton Weiner.
Hi, I'm Peyton Weiner.
Thank you. Congratulations. That's our commended students. And our final recognition is also based on the PSAT. About 1.6 million juniors take the PSATs. Those that score in the top 1% achieve the distinction of National Merit Semifinalist. This is a huge achievement along the path to college, and we would like to recognize Alexandra Roseman.
Hello, I'm Alex Risman.
There you are, Alex. Congratulations. And we also have Chloe Santana.
Hi again. I'm Chloe Santana.
That's awesome. So congratulations. I'm very proud of all of you. Your hard work absolutely has paid off. I wish I was seeing you in person.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks everyone for being on the Zoom or on the Meet if you were able to make it, and congratulations on this honor that you've gotten from the National Board. Okay, we're going to, do we have Mark Laprecido online?
Yes, hello everyone, good evening.
All right, great, Mark. Mark's going to present us with the student representative report. He's one of our 3 representatives. Take it away, Mark. Let us know what's going on in the hybrid model here.
Thank you, Mr. Sangelo. Hi everyone, again, my name is Mark Laprecido. I'm a senior at the high school, and tonight I'm going to give you a little bit of an update, a little bit of a rundown on what the high school is doing and what our school system is doing to adapt and adjust to COVID-19 in terms of scheduling and in terms of everything that's going on with the school year. So first off, I'd like to say that I was able to sit in with the pandemic team to kind of plan out a little bit of the phase 2 options and give a student opinion on those options, which I think is an important thing during the decision-making process. Firstly, the safety that goes on every day at school. When students arrive at school, they are screened, their temperatures are checked to make sure that everyone is feeling good. And that is when they come into school in the morning, and then when they come back from open campus. And then in terms of actually in the classroom, students are seated at desks that are socially distanced, spaced apart to make sure that everyone is 6 feet apart. And there are disinfectant wipes that everyone can use to wipe down their desk and when they come into class and when they leave to make sure that everything is clean. And then with the adjustments that are made for the COVID-19 pandemic, there's some concern about learning and how students are doing with their curriculums. And speaking for myself, I believe that students are getting a great education, and I think that the teachers are really doing a great job to make sure that all the students are understanding the curriculum and are getting that education. And in terms of school, actually, as you all know, there are 2 cohorts. One cohort coming in Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday is an all virtual day where everyone is on a computer for full 8 periods. And then Thursday and Friday would be the second cohort. And then after school, on those half days, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, teachers offer office hours for students to come in after school if they need extra assistance or extra help on anything that was discussed in class. And office hours are somewhat mandatory. Some teachers offer them to be optional if students need that. In terms of extracurriculars, fall sports are returning, and that is cross country, girls, boys soccer, field hockey, as well as football. Speaking for myself, I'm on the football team, and I think that safety is our first priority. Every day at practice, whether that's a practice day or a game day, students check their temperature, and everyone is encouraged to wear a mask. And I think that everyone is really complying with those rules, and we're being as safe as possible with that. And then in terms of the PTA, the school year is, the social side of a school year is really important for our administration and for our students. And a lot of the social side of school is what a lot of students look forward to. So Ms. McKell recently was meeting with the PTA to discuss possible Spear Week options. Spear Week is a fantastic series of events that students really look forward to, which would be awesome if we could get that going this year. Also homecoming, possibly discussed, and other social aspects of school, which is a really big part of our school year at Haddonfield. So thank you very much. That concludes, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Yeah, I don't know. While we have you, because you don't have to go, you're senior, and this is totally throwing a month into the normal progression of the year. How are you doing? Like, how are your friends? Like, how does it feel to be a senior in this environment?
It's definitely different from the past 3 years, but I think me personally, I'm trying my best to adjust and, just do my best.
Thanks.
Everything, I really do.
Thanks for the positive. Anyone else have anything more? All right, listen, thanks for presenting. You don't have to stay on. We know you're busy.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mark. All right. We do not have any formal presentations. We have your update, which comes after the committee. Okay. I think, Dave, you were saving your curriculum committee report for this meeting?
Yes, it is because I had only distributed them soon before the last meeting. So we met on October 13th, which was about a year ago in COVID time. And I say that because the things we talked about, some have come to pass already. So one of the topics we talked about at the beginning was the PSAT review and a preview and what the plans were for administering the PSAT, and then how some of the activities were going to commence. One of the things you saw tonight, right, where national merit recognition from PSAT taking. We talked about how the gifted and talented program reminders were going to be going out. We talked about how they were scored and how people were identified to be in those groups. Then we took a look into the when we did the 2-hour delay in September, what the data review was like based off of that. It's one of those things that people are still kind of getting their head around. The Lincoln benchmarks, we normally use them against other standardized testing that happens in New Jersey. And a lot of that standardized testing didn't happen in the spring. So we didn't have numbers to benchmark against it, but we felt that it was still important to collect the data as best as we can, because this isn't something that's going anywhere. So not only do we want to create muscle memory, that this is a procedure of how we evaluate student progression in the district, even if we don't have the benchmark data. This isn't going to last forever. So the more often we do these linkage, we have these delayed 2-hour review sessions on 4 Wednesdays in the year, not a heavy lift. And then when the standardized testing comes back, to have actually things to compare it against. So we're happy to see that one. And one of the things about the Lincoln especially is the other part of the muscle memory. It's not just from the students and the pace of school, but it's also the parents get a little more aware of how to evaluate the results if they want to evaluate the results. And I say that because the Lincoln assessment in September is testing them on things that they will learn in the year, and they haven't learned most of it. So, the first thing is, oh my Lord, my child didn't do so great. Well, this isn't an assessment. This is an evaluation of their progression. And so the Lincoln Parent Portal and how that's rolled out and how that's explained. So that was an important thing to go through, as well as a couple different committee meetings like social studies and a review of that curriculum coming up to see that. And then we just talked about district goals and how professional development is going to be revolving around that. Some of those district goals were in Mr. Klaus's presentation last week. Like I said, a few weeks ago, it was like a year. And then we talked about a little bit about what the next step was to get people in the building. So I don't want to steal any thunder on that. But we're just one data point on the curricular committee to feed that. We did want to make sure that district communication did talk about making aware of students that have siblings that have graduated, and a lot of colleges are letting out for the fall semester right around the Thanksgiving holiday, and the need for being mindful of New Jersey's quarantine lists. So if you're coming from states that your student, that your college-age child is coming from, that it's not just a college-age child that should be quarantining, it should be the family, because obviously they're coming into the home and living. So just being mindful to communicate that to the teachers too, to kind of just say, why your attendance might be low in the week or 10 days prior to the Thanksgiving break is more kids than normal will be virtual. So we just wanted to plan for the communication of that. We scheduled the next few meetings. So November 10th and December 1st are the next two curricular meetings. And they will be the last two that I'm chair. So I'll be stepping down as chair of the curriculum committee. I saw with my predecessor that sometimes you stay too long and you always need fresh ideas. So I'll be more than happy to turn the reins over to someone who can add their own kind of personality and priorities into the mix. So I'm excited to see that.
Hey, Dave, can you add a little bit more color around the gifted and talented? Because I believe, I think it was under Larry, unless I'm just tying up, but that we were going to open it up to more students. I just wanted confirmation or just additional information about changes we were going to make in the program.
Yeah, I think we hit the benchmark of 10% of the students. We were down at 1 or 2%, which was grossly under market of that. But I mean, I'll leave it to you guys to give the real answer.
The prior version of our gifted talent had identified roughly 2% of the population. Our goal was to get between 6 and 10%. I think it's just above 8% right now. But in addition, there's other aspects of what we casted. It wasn't just casting a deeper net. We just got more kids who all had the same, casting a wider net. So we have I'm not sure the number off the top of my head. I haven't looked at it. But twice exceptional students. So we have classified students who are also gifted. We had a child class qualify last year, who was an English language learner, who was also in the gifted talent program. So we probably do need to tweak some things and adjust some things, but the vision of making it a wider net, gathering more students in, has been met.
And you don't have to talk a while about this because I know you weren't planning on it, but as far as the curriculum, has that changed since when it was a smaller amount of people?
Yeah, because now we have a dedicated faculty member.
Yeah.
Now, one of the challenges is that started last year, and then all of a sudden, March 16th, that came to an end. So we're working on trying to make this function in this world, but it is a much different look at what it used to then, much different than what it used to be. In the past, and this was before I became the assistant superintendent, it was just kind of enrichment things given by the classroom teacher in consultation with someone else. Now, Ms. Landry actually does work with groups and individual students.
A final question on this. Are they being pulled, is it after school or are they doing it during study hall?
It's currently happening when they are in school. They're being both combination of being pulled and also Ms. Landry providing in-class support to students.
Thanks.
This is individualized learning, as if we would identify anyone else and then create, if you think about it with individualized learning, you almost think of like almost catch-up work, but you can also go on the other side of the spectrum and say more advanced work. So it's just an offshoot of what we're trying to do anyway for the learners.
In Pennsylvania, the student gets an IEP.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what.
Okay. Any other questions for Dave? All right, we took care of, I just want to make sure we get them. Took care of facilities. Lynn updated us on the policies that we'll see tonight. No communications update and negotiations not in public. Gino, do you have a report tonight? I do not. Okay. Superintendent Klaus, we're going to discuss the steps ahead.
I have a couple other things before that.
Oh, all right.
Don't lead with the punchline.
Oh, that's moving. Oh, it's on the agenda.
So, superintendent's report for tonight. First, a couple of general topics just to make us aware. As most of you are probably aware, we had our second town hall meeting Monday night. It was another successful meeting, I believe. There was roughly 135 people in attendance between the Zoom meeting and the YouTube channel. It kind of the first one was a reaction to the killing of George Floyd and some concerns about what we're doing. And this one was the title, the theme was how to be an anti-racist in Haddonfield. And it really was addressing some of the questions and concerns that came up in the first one. Dr. Henderson organized along with Dr. Zion from Rowan, and already discussions about where we're moving from there, and another one coming up. The panel did a wonderful job, and as always, you saw some of our wonderful students there. Our two students who actually we recognized them did an outstanding job. I think really helped nail down some really poignant points. I said last week that National Honor Society had our first ever outdoor national. We got postponed because of weather. The weather looked awful. It ended up not raining, but it's going to be this Sunday now at 2:00 in the stadium. Well, the parents are welcome, and hopefully we'll have a nicer day.
My son thanks you. They were able to move the soccer games back to the field.
Oh, there you go. See that? There you go. All worked out. So in the elementary school, I got my first time in my new office this year. Look out my window and see the Central School Halloween parade, which is quite exciting. I actually felt like I opened my window and waved as they went by, so that was nice. I'm gonna try to get the Tatum. So Cohort A had their parade on Tuesday. Cohort B has theirs tomorrow. I'm hoping the rain stops by then. I think it looks like it probably will. So I'm going to try to run over to Tatum and see Tatum's parade tomorrow. We'll get this out in many forms, but the week of December 14th, there will be a calendar adjustment. If we are still in our current model on December 14th, that's when conferences are. So there's no school on Friday, so we have to move that in-person day, and that Wednesday, which is a virtual day, would go away, elementary only. And we didn't catch that when we made our calendar adjustment. So we'll get that notice out to everyone if we're still in this model on December 14th. The Haddonfield School District, we partnered, and Dr. Pill has talked about it before, with Temple University's Child and Adolescent Anxiety Disorders Clinic. They send, is it 2 clinicians?
Correct.
Two clinicians to our school district. They work from here with our students. It's on Wednesdays, 1 day a week, and they are stationed here, but I believe they'll go to other schools and visit when necessary when they work with children. One of the things we're looking at doing, and we're not sure of exactly the logistics of it yet, but we are being encouraged through executive orders and such that if we're having live board meetings, any public meeting, we want to try to allow live public attendance. There's a lot of restrictions in place with numbers and space, but we are going to try in our November meetings to put some semblance of a public presence at our meeting. It'll be limited to maybe 10 people because you have a 25 max right now. And who gets those 10 seats, we have not yet decided or figured out, as you decided. But we'll be getting information out about that. All right, any questions on those things? All right. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed War of the Worlds. Thank you. So War of the Worlds it starts tonight, I think, right? So it's the 3-night run of War of the Worlds. And Mr. DiDonato and his drama club, they always do a fantastic job. And what a clever idea at a time we can't come and see something to restructure a famous radio show about the aliens coming and attacking Earth. I would highly encourage everyone to try to see it, listen to it. And I know that the HET was beneficial in helping to support this too. So we should probably acknowledge their efforts in that as well. So phase 2 recommendations. Last week, we talked about our planning process and just quickly look at it. We had several meetings and surveys were put out. One of the things with the surveys, we're still analyzing a lot of those surveys, specifically the student surveys closed tomorrow, but teacher surveys are closed and doing an analysis. We probably could have just grabbed some numbers randomly and thrown them up, but we didn't want to do that. We want to make sure we do a deep dig into these before we share some of the surveys. It's not just reopening the surveys. It has to do with SEL and cultural responsiveness. And homework is another piece in there. So we'll be getting more of those survey results in November. We talked about the 2 models, basically, the extended day remaining cohorts and the combined cohorts. As some schools are talking about going to phase two. So schools that were full virtual in the beginning are starting to come back now. Some schools who were back with hybrid models are beginning to look at different models. Those are mostly going with the extended day cohorts. Eastern High School, I believe, they were virtual, they came back in cohorts, and they're going to extended day cohorts. The other one is the combined cohorts, where you have basically 100% of the population in for a shorter period of time. And the things in blue are the things that we are looking at. They were the things we looked at as maybe our greatest challenges for each. We have decided that we are going to recommend, or I'm going to recommend, going to the combined cohorts. This would add an additional 12.75 hours of in-person instruction a week. And now I have 5 days a week. I have put an asterisk on there. So one of the things we talked about after we met with the steering committee yesterday, and some more questions came up. Right now, we're at about 11 or 12% full virtual learners, which means our afternoons for element, this is a K-5, this piece. I'll talk about this when we get to K-5. But if we get a large population of students who decide to go full virtual in addition to what we already have now, the 5 days a week might just be not possible, because that time will have to be dedicated to our virtual learners. I'll talk about that when we get specifically to elementary. It avoids the lunches, which is a challenge. And, not to be a negative thought process, but if we have to shift back, staying just in the mornings is an easier shift back for families and structure. The when is a big one. And it's just like the whole state and country, Camden County is shifting up a little bit toward orange. So that's something we'll talk about. I'll talk about as we get to the end when we talk about the whens. So preschool, interesting preschool.
Can I ask a question on that slide just real quick? What would the day, it would be the same hours of the day?
It would be 8:45 to 12:45.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
And high school and middle school are like 8 to 12:25. So it's about 4 and whatever hours there.
Okay, thank you.
And one more quickly.
Yes.
The high school, was that going to be 5 days a week? Or was
The high school's gonna be high school's gonna be 4 days a week too. I'll get to that as well. Thank you very much.
You might talk about this, but since it's 8:45 to 12:45 and they currently have snack, and it seems like.
It'll be the same they have right now, yes. So that's the same exact day structure they have right now. So the snack's gonna be a little more challenging because of social distancing, but that'll be something we'll work out with the schedule, with spacing. So preschool is an interesting case. As you know, our preschool, it has classified students and typical learning students. And right now, what's happening is our classified students have more time than the typical learning, and it's turning out to be functioning pretty well, actually. So this is something we're actually leaning toward, maybe staying with the status quo with just the pre-K preschool, and looking at ways to modify it so that our typical learning students can get some more in-pace time. But this is something that's going along pretty well. And if we were to go, we talked about maybe looking at an AM/PM model. Doesn't work well for a number of reasons when you dig deep. We can't combine cohorts simply because of the number of students. We would be 30 in a class in some places. So we do have to keep the cohorts separate. So the model we're looking at now is working pretty well, and we think it's probably going to be, if anything, a slight modification of this for our typical learning students. K-5, and this I'll get back. This is what I was talking about earlier. So they would be 8:30 to 12:45 in person, 2 to 3 would be virtual with specials. Identified at-risk students, and this is going to be across the board, will be in the afternoon. So these are students who may have IEPs or 504s or social emotional issues, who need related services. It's going to be looking at students who need extra time and finding a way to get that extra time in their world. And this will be a heavy lift for our case managers and child study team that put this together. But we think it's important that, a couple of meetings ago, David talked about the courage to give to offer opportunities for some rather than others. This is a perfect example of why you do that. We have some students who are going to struggle more than others for a variety of reasons. If we have the opportunity to help those, we have a reason why. It's not going to be a random, people get this, A, B, C, or D. We'll be able to define the reason why and offer those opportunities to those people. I said it's going to be, could be a variety of reasons. It could be SEL. And anytime we have someone who we know that would benefit from this and we can make it happen, we're going to work to make that happen. And for the 5 days a week, as opposed to maybe a 4-day a week with the Wednesday, you know, we went with 5 days a week. That's what we still would like to go with. But I don't want to not have that asterisk there and find out that if we get 23% full virtual learners, and now our teachers have to have one-on-ones and small groups with the virtual learners, and they only have an hour, 4 hours in the afternoon or 5 hours and can't do it, we don't want to lock ourselves in there. I'll talk about how we're going to decide this at the end of this piece. But, you know, one of the challenges is that your full virtual students, we're supposed to be giving them the same access as the in-person students. So you can't just say, you live stream in and you figure it out. We have an obligation to give those students the best services we can. And that's something we have to work out once we have those numbers. We're going to be surveying for those numbers very shortly. When we put our model together in summer, if you remember, we surveyed as part of developing the model. And we knew September 1, this is what we're looking at. Doing that now would be difficult because when we started off, we had a phase 2 plan developed in the summer, which is a full cohort day. As we examined it, we said, that's not the best model. We got to change models. So we need to go back and find that data from how many parents would now switch to full virtual based on this model. We're moving forward without all the information, but it's better than not moving forward at all, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. But we'll be able to gather the information and then make that final 4 or 5 day evaluation based on what we can. Our goal is 5 days all day, right? But our goal for this phase 2 is going to be 5 days with the understanding that if that's not possible, we have to do the best we can to service all of our students.
I had a question, Chuck. I don't, maybe I misunderstood you, but it sounded like you were going to go back and look at the data that we got for a full day.
We're going to survey again.
Okay, you're good. Well, yeah, because my only thing is, as a parent, my views have changed too about what I would feel comfortable with my children. And so I'm just thinking, I know people are done with the surveys, but they might need another survey to see. And unfortunately, it is part of, if we need the most information.
Right. And this survey have to very specifically say, this is the model we're using. And it won't even necessarily maybe be about academics. It'll be, here's the safety protocols we're gonna have in place. Are you comfortable coming back, or are you gonna go full virtual, right? Because that's really what this survey is going to be about right now. We'll put in there all the information. This survey would be unfair to have that question asked without knowing whether or not we're going to have polycarbonate shields, whether or not we have 6 foot distance, what's going on with our masks. So that's the reason why, although it seems a little backward, the survey is coming after the decision, because the survey can now be more informed to make the responses more informed.
I ask one more question.
Sure.
Kindergarten, so pre-COVID, they had a shorter school day. Will they keep?
They're going to stay with the school day they have now. This is a group that's going to benefit more than others, right? Because to enable to make our cohort model work, we had to extend their day and therefore extend, you remember we extended teachers' hours. So they went from 0.5 to 0.71 in some of the cases. They've already got that extended day, so we're just going to keep that day going. So it'll be some good catch-up time for some of our kindergarten students.
Just one more high-level question. Has the state issued any mandatory, if we're in this particular color coding for breakout statewide, you cannot open up schools?
Yes, well, there are regulations put in place, and so there's different color codes. Camden County has been in yellow for a while. It looks like we might be hitting orange. I'll give that information a little bit.
Okay. I'm curious what impacts us going to phase 2.
Thank you very much. Yes. So because it is numbers and it's trending over time. It's not just what it look like on Tuesday.
And clarity, the 5-day asterisk is, it might be 4 days.
It might be 4 days.
Right, yeah, not that, we might not do it at all.
No.
Just being crystal clear.
So when we get to the end, this is frustrating for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And when we started, we're starting tonight. When I make this recommendation and we survey tomorrow and I give our plan to the county and then we can watch the numbers and I'll talk about this later. The 30-day notice for parents is not necessary. So in a smaller community like ours, this can happen more quickly if the numbers are right and safe, more quickly than we may have thought before. So we have some good news on that.
So how quickly would that
I
potentially?
mean,
Just
so we only have 13 days of school in November.
Right.
So it's not going to happen in November. But it probably could happen in December, right? So, and I would love to have this happen. I'll pick a day. I probably shouldn't pick a day. December 2nd, I think we come back from Thanksgiving. Maybe December 9th, right? Or maybe December 7th. Because I think students need to build school stamina. It's not easy to be in school for students. They haven't been there since March 16th, right? For an extended period of time. So it'd be great to get them in early December, mid-December, so they had a week or two in school before winter break. So when they come back in January, it's more normal in that world, right? So, there's a lot of arguments you can go back and forth about waiting until after winter break. My preference would be the earlier the better, if we could.
Makes sense.
But we'll talk about the numbers which aren't favoring that decision. Middle school is going to go, it's either a 4-day cycle or an 8-day cycle. So I went 8 days because that's a bigger, I don't know why. But the reason is because in middle school, you have your special days, A and B days. So we have to get all this, for everyone to get their specials in, you have to go on a rotation. You can't do a 5-day week. It's either got to be a 4 or an 8-day cycle. That way all the specials can meet. So right now, some of the specials are only meeting virtually, even though we're in school. That a lot of those things will come out in the wash with this too. But they will be 5 days a week. So the virtual impact won't matter because the way they run their classes and they're live streaming whole classes as opposed to live streaming lessons. So that's a big difference between the K to 5 and the 6 to 12 is K to 5 is live streaming mini lessons. 6 to 8, 6 to 12 is live streaming classes, right? And because they're able to do more screen time. So this will be 5 days. It'll be the odd periods, those days, 1, 3, and 5. I forgot 7, modified 7 and 7. 2, 4, 6, and 8 would be the even period. I forgot to modify. Sorry. And then once again, that caveat, identify students at risk will be in the afternoons as well. Yes.
Just because I didn't understand the specials, will they then be happening in the school building?
They all specials in the middle school are part of your regular schedule. So you get it as part of your schedule, but some of them are. It depends on what special. Like so, I think some of the technology courses have been running virtually, even though there's people in the building, depending on your schedule.
And gym.
Right, and gym. This will address that.
So they're going to be doing gym in the school.
Yes.
Okay.
High school is going to go 4 days. They're going in person in Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday. They have their odd periods and even periods. The virtual instruction in the afternoon, which is the office hours and meetings that you heard the student rep talk about. Wednesday is going to be a full virtual day where all 8 classes meet. So feedback from teachers, students, staff is meeting all the kids on that one day has been very valuable. It's a day, and I think it might be the hardest day of the week for some of the kids when you hit all 8 classes, right? Because it's a little different challenging. But it was universal from the voices we heard that day where everyone gets to meet and catch up and touch base all the same time in all 8 periods is a beneficial day. So they asked to keep that virtual Wednesday in. So we're going to keep that in.
That's not surprising. When we talked about the block schedule in the first place,
Right,
we
yes.
went modified block because there was still student feedback,
Right.
teacher feedback, was that running through the whole schedule was still beneficial. So that's not surprising.
No. At-risk students, I talked about that, academic sport related services. We are going to look to get polycarbonate shields for pre-K to 5. We're not going to get shields for 6 to 12. If you look at some of the literature I was looking at this week, and many parents were kind of sending articles, which was nice. I have some of them cited at the end of this. But But you see that the CDC says polycarbonate shields are good for certain situations, but not necessary for others. And the article I read from CHOP said that if you have kids sitting closer than 3 feet or whatever, it's good to have them. Executive Order 182, I think, is our governor's latest executive order. Talks about anyone within 6 feet indoors now must wear a mask, and recommends some type of barrier. So we are going to go with since it's pre-K to 5 tend to do more of that small group work in these situations. We are going to get them the barriers. 6 to 12 will still be as we are right now. We looked at HEPA air filters. All rooms without offices, windows, we have 73% of them are installed, and that's only because the other 27% have not arrived yet. Looking for all rooms, we just thought about that. It would run, I think it says up there, you can't sing it, maybe as much as $100,000. So that's going to be cost prohibitive. So we will not be putting HEPA air filters in all of the classrooms.
It's not covered by the grant.
No, we won't be able to get a grant. Our entire CARES Act was $93,000, I believe, roughly $93,000. We've already spent all but $10,000 or $12,000.
So kids will be challenged, the short, tough guys will be challenged this winter because the windows will be open in the classrooms throughout the winter with the heat jack.
The kids will wear shorts in the winter.
That's what I mean.
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
But you're talking about short guys.
No. As a short guy, I take offense. No.
Short wearing tough guys.
Short wearing tough guys. Yeah, not short tough guys. Well, every tough guy, every short person is a Napoleon. No. Yeah, short wearing tough guys will have to suck it up a little bit because the windows will be open all winter with the heat jacked up.
So the when is the question we all want to know. I mean, the what's important. And so we're looking at, and the two big numbers are the case rate and the percent positivity. And ideally with 0 on both of those, right? But as far as where we want to start looking at, if we have to start picking exact numbers, you want a case rate of 10 per 100,000 or less, basically, and a positivity rate of 5% or less. Like they're not magic numbers, but that's kind of where we would like to see things as we move forward. And stable or trending down over a number of days, a week, 10 days, something to that effect. They're kind of numbers that would keep us in what we would call the yellow, right? So yellow is at risk, but not high risk. Green is the best color. And so here's some just COVID monitoring. So you can see this is how the state's broken up in the 4 counties. When we get these reports, we're regionalized with those 4 counties: Burlington, Camden, Gloucester, and Salem. And here's those numbers. So you see low, moderate, high, and very high risk. And if you look at moderate, you're looking at 10% case rate, 10 per 100,000, and a positivity rate between 3 and 10%. Right? I said 5 because that's a number we like in there. High would be, you see those numbers that when your case rate gets over 10 per 100,000, and your percent positivity is over 10%. So just so you know, we've been in the yellow and green basically since July. On Thursdays around 2 o'clock is when the weekly report comes out. It has not come out today. I'm suspecting because Essex County, which is, went red earlier this week, right? They went up to where they were about 20 to 30 cases per 100,000. We're probably around 11 per 100,000 right now. We're just thresholding over the 10, it looks like, our average for the week. And our positivity rate still is probably around 3.5, which has been recently. So here's the charts. And you can see the trending there that we were going up a little bit. The case rate, we were just shy of 9.6 last week. And our positivity rate, that you see, is still in the 3s. So in essence, if we come back on the 9th or the 12th, and between now and then, the positivity, the percent positive stays there, and the cases per 100,000, 877, 877, 877, I would recommend that I would come back on the 9th and say, I want to pick a date and open, right? And that's how this is going to work. It is science, but it's not, I can't give you a date. I can give you our plan, which is when I see those numbers and I look at them every day and they stay in that stable or lowering after a week or 10 days, and we feel confident this is where we're trending, I will say, I would probably pick a 2-week window because we have to get some things prepared. Say, okay, if we came back on the 9th and it's trending that way, I would send out, say, listen, December 2nd, I want to move to phase 2, right? If we come back on the 9th and it hasn't trended that way, maybe it's December 7th, maybe whatever, it is where it is. But that's the plan moving forward, is how I look to implement this. Yes.
When are you going to get the survey out?
We're going to do that tomorrow.
Okay, because
so we're off next week,
Yeah.
but not everyone's going to be off. We'll be doing some work.
tomorrow's good.
That doesn't make no mind.
We'll be working on it next week, right? And so even to that, right? When we get those results back and then we get back on the 9th, even if we're going to open up on the 2nd, Gino and I are going to go meet with teachers and go over all this and go and nail down all these things and see what those Wednesdays may look like and what we might have to do. So that way we're going to have that 2 weeks will buy us those extra days. But if it's the 7th, whatever, we still have, that's still our plan anyway. So that way we can iron out those final little details that we're working out. Next steps, tomorrow we'll put out a communication to parents saying, this is my recommendation. This, so it won't be 6-foot social distancing. It will be everyone with masks on. We'll have the same screening protocols in place. These are the PPE we're planning on instituting. We'll get that survey out about who's going to go full virtual, because that will be that key, what happens on Wednesdays. I have to submit a revised phase 2 to the county, because our phase 2 that we have now is dramatically different than the one I'm recommending tonight. I talked to the superintendent, the county's executive superintendent. She said, if you get it to me, we'll look at it. It sounds like I've been in contact with them. It sounds like everything's lining up. You're doing all the things. Your checklists are going to be checked off. It won't be a problem. We'll get the orders out tomorrow. Mike will jump on there tomorrow. We'll put the orders out for the PPP we're going to get. And also we're going to start moving the furniture back in classrooms. Right now, our classrooms only have 12 desks in them, 10 desks in them, because we took stuff out for social distancing. So we'll start actually physically moving things back in the classrooms over the next couple of weeks. Probably still, I think Ms. Matosi had a great idea. When you move them back in, put like painter's tape and excellent, so you still keep the distance, right? You haven't got the sheet until we use them. But even to have them physically be moving back in will be good for the kids to see, the teachers to see, and showing that progress forward. Here's some, when I post this tomorrow, like I said, some of these articles, some of these are ones we're looking at. The top one, the COVID activity level, that's that chart with all the green and orange in it. There's something from the Atlantic Monthly that just CHOPS threshold guides. So these are, when you look at these, you're being able to one and say, you shouldn't be doing this. The other one's like, you should be doing this, right? Because they're both going to have the yay and nay to it. But they're interesting reads for the most part. And there's also one, it's a dashboard across the country that has, I think it's 5 million students in it. It's the one alluded to, that new dashboard, where you register your school and you give them your data. And so I registered today. So we're going to be part of this study across the country. And so it's really interesting. When you get time, I would highly recommend you look at it. You can pull variables at the top. You can say, what's the case rate with 6-foot distancing for kids with masks in a school in a hybrid situation? And it'll tell you it's 13 per 100,000, whatever the number is. And then you say without 6 feet, it's like 4. You can see you can actually see in real life how some of the factors influence more than other factors. So it is something worth taking a look at if you have some time. And that's the quest plan, yes.
If parents aren't comfortable with something, as an example for gym, but they're comfortable sending their kids 5 days a week, will they be able to write somewhat of a note and opt their kids out of that? Or is it you have to attend all the classes if you're going to send 5 days a week?
hadn't thought of that question. You know, that's something that, that's something I'll have to mull over. You know, the quick instant answer is, well, no, gym's a required state mandated course, you have to take it. But that being said, there could be alternative offerings, right? So if I don't want to take phys ed, is there something I can do in replace of going to the gym and doing the phys ed course that can count? So that's something I don't have a good answer on the top of my head because I hadn't thought of that. I will certainly contemplate that.
Is the ultimate return to full pay dependent upon the state removing that virtual option requirement or us?
I would say no. I would say that if our numbers went down and we're in that green area, I would say our next step would be our phase 3 would be let's keep our masks, let's move in full day, we'll figure the lunch out and go.
Can we figure out how to teach the virtual students during the times where the kids are not?
Yeah, that's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. It's a really good point. And it may, and so we'd have to figure that out. And we may figure that out by virtue of phase 2, right? We may start off with, if we have a lot of virtual kids and we go with 4 days phase 2, we may figure out after 3 or 4 weeks, hey, we can do this and do that and change it up a little bit. And that's probably how we would learn how to do that, Justin, is by the experience. Right now, if we were to double our virtual students, I couldn't see how teachers simply wouldn't have enough hours to do both jobs. It's going to be, even if it stays where it is, we're really stretching teachers because some of that Wednesday that was used to meet those virtual kids now is gone, right? So you have you're losing maybe 4 hours of virtual meeting to 1 hour. And so you have to keep in mind those virtual kids deserve that full time. So that's a great question. That's something we'll have to work out as we get toward that piece.
Good context, I appreciate it.
Yes. All right.
Thanks, John. I was thinking about, I said something at the end of the how to be an anti-racist meeting. I just want to frame some things around Chuck's discussion, and I'll go into the lounge stuff. It's not a deep interpretation to say that we live in a hard time that can be divisive. And I've just noticed through the conversations I'm having with, and I think all of us can on the board we've gotten a lot of communications. And it's not, I think everyone on this board admires people speaking up and telling us what they think and what they think makes sense and what they want. And we encourage it. But what I've also noticed in the language is that there's a win-lose component to these communications. And it's not so much about, it's that if it doesn't happen exactly the way I envision it happening, I'm losing and we like to win. Where we have this winning mentality, so it gets hard to sort of, it's not hard, it's just, it's hard to try to serve. We're on this board to serve, and we have servant leaders as administrators. So this divisiveness, it isn't healthy and I'm not worried about my communications. I see what goes on social media, and you see how people are talking to each other in the community, and it's disheartening. So I wanted to comment on the things that we agree. We agree that students need more. Now, they are not being served as students the way they need.
I just got a text from Tracy. I misspoke on her PE question. So for middle school, health is during the day in class, PE is virtual in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm
sorry,
you're
going
holy cow, talking about telling the We'll forget. No,
What do we agree on?
We agree that students need more now, and that they're not being served the way we need to serve them, given the current conditions that we are all experiencing. Our individual children, each individual family, the town of Haddonfield, the state of New Jersey, and the country, and now the world. This is a global issue. And it's not to belittle it. Everyone's looking, we want to serve each person, but this is not just happening here, it's not just happening to you. teachers on a whole are doing a fantastic job. They're doing a tremendous job with our students, given the limitations. The administration is sprinting, and they've been sprinting since last spring. Once we realized we had to put these plans in place, they've put in all hours during the summer, they canceled vacations. Now they're running buildings and reformulating plans. The plans that they designed in August and July they're obsolete because we have new data and we have new information. And actually, it's good news. We can do more. We feel safer in our buildings. So they're working to provide a plan with how to get things moving to the next level. We have to serve all of our students, our regular students, I don't even know if you call them typical or non-classified students, special ed, medically compromised, people that live with medically compromised people. All of our students have a right to public education, and we have to serve them all. If you haven't picked up on it, this is an extraordinarily complex model that has to be adapted with no precedent. So they're designing new plans in the absence of any precedent under rules that they've never seen before. So it's not something we can change on a dime. It's easy to close on a dime. Go home, don't come in, we'll figure it out. But to get people integrated, all the mechanisms are complicated. And as a tangent, these surveys, we joked around about fatigues. We gotta ask questions, we gotta get the feedback. We're pushing out a plan, we're putting out another survey, but the survey is to get, so now that you know what the plan is, how are you feeling, what are you going to do, so we can adjust, the administration. So I just want people to try to focus on the facts that we really do all agree on these things, and it's not an us them thing. I feel like I'm going to say that a lot, but you're competing against a natural setup for divisiveness in social media and electronic communications, which isn't that helpful.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, please.
And Chuck, you said this in the last meeting, and of course we all know this, but when you said it, I took pause because it was like, yes, of course. You said that private schools can make choices that public schools cannot. Private school, you can choose to send your kids there. They can make their own rules, but you just said, we must serve all kids, and every child in this district has a right to this education, and we can't force things on people that aren't right. So I think we all know that, but I thought that was worth reiterating. What you said made a lot of sense, and that we can't play by those rules. We have a different playbook that we have to play by.
I think the model we have now, the best thing about it was not my favorite model, I should never say that, is that I think the people who are full virtual now are going to be full virtual regardless of the model. So we hit that sweet spot. The next step is not going to be that same case, right? So we are going to ask people to make a decision who didn't have that same type of decision to make last time. But you're right. I think there is a difference in the fact that we have an obligation to try. I have 1,500 families and 2,800 kids I have to try to make an answer for, not what Chuck's kids would do.
If somebody writes a check, your first choice is the tuition payment. Then you go from there.
All right. Now I am going to continue to talk, which is not a good thing, but I have to present our land swap discussion.
While you're looking for that, I forgot one update.
Yeah.
The HET meeting was the other day, and this is really, I'm talking to you and to you, Gina. The teacher grants, they haven't had any applications come back yet. So if there is any way to kind of re-promote the teacher grant process, the HET, although they could always use the donations, and they really could use the donations because of the headsets that haven't arrived yet, right?
They're out.
Oh, they've come?
I sent Adam some pictures of teachers using them today.
Yay, okay, great. So this is where you say you meet 2 weeks ago, it's a year ago. So when we met earlier this week, they hadn't arrived, so they arrived this week. So with that headset donation from the HET, that really did take their coffers down. So and any help is really appreciated. But there is still the generous budget for teacher grants. They just haven't had any submissions yet. So please
They've probably been so busy.
And the other, well, they've been really busy, right? And it's hard to evaluate what they might need. The other area that the HET is starting to gear up for is a realization. And thank you for the walkthrough of the high school auditorium. Is the next very large project after beautification is over will be the refurbishment of the high school auditorium.
Much needed, much needed.
You know, there are whole rows that seats don't work, right? And they scavenge parts from the balcony that they try not to use by bringing those parts to keep seats going. The sound system is not what would be conducive to the students that want to pursue that type of activity in the future. I mean, there's nothing modern about it.
Yeah, so, you know, in essence, the town system, we're a school, and this is all of our activities really educational. And students who love doing this, our equipment is so outdated and so, what the word is, it doesn't help them, right? So if you get better equipment, they can learn how to use it. Then they go into college to study this. They're really in line with that. You know, we do things in the school like our open campus is kind of a way to learn responsibilities you go through. So when you go to college, you learn. Our people who do the sound system, they'll go to college and like, I have no idea what this equipment is in front of me. They're using a typewriter.
I was going to use a typewriter analogy.
And a computer. That's what we're doing. So that'll be a huge help, and it help the kids. Well, not just the quality of the sound, but really help the kids learn and grow that way too.
But from a pitch, that all takes money.
Yes.
The HET, they have, like everyone else, they've had to scale back some of their fundraising activity, the pig roast, the golf outing. Anything helps.
So a good way to donate, an easy way to donate would be?
Go to the HET website, there's a donate button.
First of all, I'll go back to presenting this thing. I wanted to thank Dave for waiting for me to come down off my high horse. Did her up. You got me in full throttle there. All right, listen. Let me get this thing back up.
Wow, that was full throttle?
No, I was getting into it.
Oh, okay.
Feel it, the whole thing went down.
Sorry.
Short guy, tough guy, right?
All right, so listen, this is going to look familiar to board members who were on the board of the last more than 2 years ago. When the Bancroft deal was being worked out with O'Neill, the Hopkins portion of the Bancroft property, the property that borders between Hopkins Lane and the high school, was not going to be a part of the of any construction. The borough initially anticipated putting a green acres restriction on that land, which would have made it not undevelopable, is that a word? Forever, in perpetuity. And at that time, we thought, you know, we are landlocked at the high school, and it didn't make sense to us to put that kind of in perpetuity bind on that land that we couldn't use for any construction, with no intentions of building anything on that land, just the idea that we could keep it as an option for future generations. So the borough had a problem. They needed we have funds that we have access to help take down the cost of that Bancroft purchase for the borough, and that the borough can access if they put land under the registry. So we said to the borough, we own some land around town that we don't need for educational purposes. We could trade you land for land. You could put the other land with the green acres restriction, and that Hopkins parcel we could hold as a district for future use, again with no. So we looked at in March of 2018, we looked at the warrants of that swap. We did that in public with the commissioners at Borough Hall. So it was a board meeting and a commissioner meeting where we were all sworn in, and this is the presentation. I'm just going to review the presentation. As we discussed it then, and then I'll take it further. So from March of 2018, the deal hinged on the land being protected through the Green Acres Fund. So that was the impetus for us doing this. No new buildings were planned for the foreseeable future. We had no intention to build on the property, and no change in usage of the fields in Radnor. The decision drivers were today's students, these taxpayer, cost of taxpayers and taxpayer needs, and then anticipation of these future needs. So these are what we did as a borough. The property to the far right with the green is the Hopkins parcel. It's 5.67 acres. The green is the high school property now. The red is the Hopkins piece. The little cutout on the lower right-hand side, that's Lulworth Hall. That's not a part of this deal. The part of the deal that goes from Anniversary Field up to Lulworth Hall, and it includes the carriage house, the greenhouse, and Cooley Hall. And we'll get to that a little bit. The properties we debated trading were the Scout Field and the driveway attached to that, or Radnor Field. And we had a thorough evaluation to which one we should choose. We looked at Scout. This is the Scout property. We'll make this public. It's already out from our original March conversation somewhere on the internet. We'll make this. And the Radnor property. One of the, and then this is the Hopkins tract. We did a SWOT analysis for each property. Scout, Scout had already been approved for education and instruction years ago, so we knew it could be easily done again. It's closer to the middle of town, to Central and Middle School, and it has a lower cost to maintain it. It has limited frontage. If you go back to the slide, Scout, the only area to access the property is on Center Street, and it's relatively narrow. And so there are traffic concerns that come along with that. Again, the opportunity being closer to town, and it's adjacent to the high-speed line, which we thought might not be ideal because of the noise and then potential for kids wanting to get in. Radnor, it's a larger continuous acreage, multiple vehicular points. It holds no educational approval, so that we don't have a strength there. There's some drainage issues so to get educational approval, we probably have to have some resolution on those. It's more expensive to maintain, and it's I don't even know what that means. That's natural country. Another thing that wasn't so ideal is it's at the very end of the borough. It's not central. We're a walking district, so being central is a little bit better. These are just the locations on the map. So we decided in the 18th.
That expression meant it's surrounded by houses, as opposed to Scout that's surrounded by woods.
Oh, okay. Oh, natural country. Okay. Yeah. Natural country. I didn't know what that meant.
Doesn't look like that. I didn't know what that means.
These are just the green locations or locations we're already using. The elementary schools are in green, obviously middle school, high school, and then the two properties we swap. We agreed this would be a good idea, so we, one of the key functions, I don't think it's even on the slide. The school district can dispose of property without, we have to get Department of Education approval, but we do not need borough approval. It does not go to a referendum. We cannot purchase property without referendum. So it's always sort of been a slight but reasonable fear that if we didn't need Radnor Field and we came into a money problem, we could sell it to a developer. When I say we, a board. This board has never talked about doing it, never come up in conversation, but one of the advantages of locking Radnor Field up in Green Acres is the Farwood section, that area doesn't want it to become, they like their open space. So this would ensure that no one can ever develop on that property. So that was a positive for doing it. So we decided this was a good exercise, both the commissioners and the board decided it was a good exercise moving forward. We hired Garrison Architects to coordinate the swap. We hired Parker McKay for counsel and Renwick and Associates for the appraisals. So we had to negotiate with the borough on stipulations, in addition to the regular language to swap land. There were some stipulations that we wanted to put into the MOA. The MOA is available to the public, but it's also available to you. There's a link here. I'll make sure you see it. But the key negotiated stipulations were that it would be for educational use property only, and that if we were going to dispose of it, the borough would have a right of first refusal to purchase the Hopkins property. Obviously, Radnor Fields would have to be restricted to green acres. I think I mistyped that. The school district would provide funds for the Hopkins evaluation. Oh, I'm sorry. It would be a cashless swap. With the values had to be close enough to equal for it to make, for us to allow to do it without compensation on either side. The borough would pay to demolish Cooley Hall when so the idea was when they demolished the old Bancroft property, while they were doing that, they would also demolish Cooley, and we wouldn't have to pay for that because it's a somewhat substantial expense. We acknowledged that the greenhouse and the cottage are subject to historic preservation. The exchange would be an as-in condition that the transaction does not include Lulworth. And there was a lot of discussion about lighting. So what we did was, rather than make the long-term decision about lighting today, whether we could or could not, I think this one commission was specifically adamantly against us ever being able to light that field. And we said we didn't want to, we don't know. You're not
here
sure.
anymore.
What?
That commissioner's not here anymore.
I know, but we're not even sure. And as it came to fruition was, we don't even know what's ultimately going to happen on the other side of that lane. So we didn't want to put something into, into the agreement that couldn't be changed. So what we did was we kicked it to the planning board. We said any lighting that we wanted to put up there, we would have to get planning board approval. Those were the key stipulations that came out of that memorandum of agreement. Here's the timeline of events. We approved on our March 22nd, 2018 meeting to move ahead with the swap. The BOE signed, both of us signed, and the borough signed the memorandum of agreement in October of 18. We received the Hopkins appraisal that the BOE paid for, or that the BOE arranged to get in November. The borough received theirs in May. We received, we had to get okay clearance that the dollar amounts were, that it was fairly enough valued swap that the dollar amount differences would be okay. So we have a legal opinion about that, which allowed us to move forward. We sent a letter to the county requesting approval through Parker McKay, and we received approval within the month to go forward with the swap. It has been delayed by pandemic and just literally coordinating the meetings to get together. I also believe the borough was waiting for an easement from the historical SHPO, the State Historical Protection Office, on a part of their Lulworth Hall before they could move forward. So we've been waiting to execute for a while. In that time, we have new board members. We wanted to bring everyone up to speed. Items for consideration for this current board before finalization of the swap is the cost of maintaining the property on Hopkins. So I had asked Mike to look at what the cost of maintaining the Hopkins property, not including Cooley Hall, versus the Radnor property. And they're very close. We'll be losing, it looks like we're going to actually lose some expense that will actually gain some ground in our budget for doing the swap. But what this doesn't take into account is that the district is still going to be responsible for taking care of the baseball fields during the season. So there's going to be an expense there. It wasn't narrowly broken out enough to find out what that cost was. But essentially a costless exchange for our budget. The question came up, it's been, we've been talking about this for a couple of years, just in committee and as a part of our long-range facilities plan. Do we keep Cooley Hall or demolish it? It is an existing building that can be refurbed for a lot less than it would cost to build a new building. Changes in economic conditions have altered our desire to go out for referendum. I mean, not that we were looking at the possibility, not necessarily not wanting to do it. We were going to potentially look at it, but given current conditions and the fact that we've let Cooley Hall, where Cooley Hall has deteriorated, it's just been boarded up, so it hasn't been maintained. So every year that it sits there, it gets into worse condition. And sort of tangentially tied, but not necessarily for tonight, the payment of taxes, how this may tie to that in terms of the conversations we're having with the borough going forward. So that is where we are. We took a tour of Cooley today. I'll share, and the greenhouse, I'll share some images with the rest of the board since everyone wasn't able to be on that. Stop sharing. Saying stuff is an
It doesn't look like you're presenting on YouTube.
What's that?
Did you say it looks like it says you're still presenting?
No.
Okay.
For those watching at home, this isn't a position of disagreement. I got the window open right behind me. I'm cold.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I recognized last week, but I sat there like that too.
I know, I was like,
I just saw myself on YouTube. I'm like, boy, I look angry. And we're talking about, bankrupting Cooley Hall, so a reasonable assumption since I freaked out a couple months ago.
It's taking a while. I think it's loading. Let's take a minute to load. We took pictures. It's the Cooley Hall. I made a little video at the end. Cooley Hall is an absolutely frightening building. It's completely boarded up, so it's pitch black. There's literally the sound of water dripping on the inside from the rain, broken glass. It's dilapidated in a freakish way. So I didn't get a ton of that because it was dark, but I'll just share with you guys the pictures.
Talking about wind out of the sails, Don't blame Chuck now, you can blame PowerPoint.
Look at how dark it was.
It's perfect, except for PowerPoint.
So you can see, like, kids have been taking shots at the windows. All the windows that were exposed were being broken, which is why they boarded it up in the first place. This is the entrance, so you get an idea. It's like completely unsafe. The people had clearly been getting in and sort of vandalizing. It's just sort of eerie. That was heading into the kitchen, but you really couldn't see. But more pertinent to maybe our conversation is this is the carriage house from the outside. This is the greenhouse from the outside, which is like directly across that little courtyard from the carriage house. They're actually two phenomenal properties. I could let you, Linda, Jamie, and Lynn were.
And our environmental club had been using the greenhouse until we asked them not to because of liability.
Yeah.
Not liability danger, liability, it wasn't school property.
We hadn't agreed to,
Right.
We had no agreement to use the property, which did put us in a position where we couldn't use it. This is the inside of the carriage house. There's sort of a front section and the back section. There's still some sort of old, I don't even know what this was. I think it might have been to clean horse feet or something. It was like a tiny little, almost urinal looking thing, but it was out in the middle of the door. This was the upstairs of the carriage house.
Is that an ash removal door?
No, because there was a water spigot.
There was a dumbwaiter. Did you get a picture of the
Yeah,
dumbwaiter?
I did. It was a small elevator.
Oh, there.
Yeah, I think you could actually put a person. I think it wasn't just a dumbwaiter. This was the elevator shaft.
It'd be a dumb person.
Are you still in the carriage house?
This is still the carriage house. Yeah, this is the elevator. Tim called it the elevator. That's the steps into the basement.
Yeah,
That's the basement. I took some
Moles.
Yeah, no, it didn't look moldy. Yeah, it's stone.
The black one.
Indy, why does the floor leak?
It's really freaking. No, this is the greenhouse, which again, the environmental science team was using. There were some newspapers there from 2018 when they got thrown out. Just kind of cool windows in that building, the attic in the greenhouse as well.
So someone had mentioned the roof not touching or something in the attic. I don't know if you saw that or got pictures of it.
The roof.
In the greenhouse. I thought David mentioned that.
No, the glass door, the glass roof. They forced it closed, but parts of it are inoperable. You can't open the greenhouse now. They've closed it. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in a greenhouse. You can crank open, you can adjust the ventilation of the ceiling. They've had to force it to close. That's just so it doesn't go to sleep.
No, okay. I guess, does anyone have any questions about where we are, where we're moving? Is there anything you need to know?
So I know we were never taking on Bancroft Hall, but just in lieu of the background of this, where does that, it looks pretty dilapidated. I realize this would not come to the school board, but have you had conversations with the borough about what they're planning to do with that?
Lower
I'm sorry, I said Bancroft.
Not really. I mean, and I don't want to speak, I would ask you to ask the commissioners, but I know the last I had heard, which is months old, maybe more than 6 months old, is that they were going to try to have like a medical group or a legal group lease it and use it for commercial space.
You know what, when I first had my thing about Cooley, it's still a very worthwhile. I mean, so you guys said like, Cooley was at Lynchburg. No, it's not. It's the land. And Cooley would have been a nice to have. Cooley is square footage larger than Lizzie Haddon and almost as large as Tatum. And I was reminded by one of my colleagues that from a land bank perspective, I was always concerned, and I brought this up when we had the discussions, that there's a reason we have land banked, and that's just in case anything happened or we knew we were going to be building a new school somewhere down the line. We haven't built one in a very long time, but after the last pandemic, when Haddonfield really grew out as people moved out of the city, we built an elementary school in 1923, we built a new high school in 1926. Then we converted the existing high school into a middle school. The population continued to grow. We're not there this time from a land out, but eventually we would have to replace a building. They just get old and they just run out of steam. That land banking, that's why they exist. So you could build a new school while the other schools are still in operation and have little thing. The encouraging part is Cooley, even if it didn't exist and it was torn down, we know a building of the size of one of our elementary schools could fit on the location if we ever had to do it. So that was more comforting to me because the alternative is ugly. And that's, think Lizzie Haddon, for example. The school is in the northeast corner. You would build a new school in the southwest corner. Kids for a couple of years would have zero schoolyard. It would be a mess. It would be a hazard the whole time they were in school. You don't want to see that. So the comfort that another centrally located property to most of town, because you eventually have to go to high school anyway, so we know that's not an onerous trip for anybody, could still support that. So once that was pointed out to me, I was a little more chill about losing Cooley. There was an opportunity, it was more of a revenue opportunity for me, that, it's a building, there was a lot of building we didn't need. It could have been leased maybe to somebody. There's a lot of maybes in it. What's not maybes is the condition of it. What we would be inheriting a mess, and the opportunity to tear it down was just a tear down offer from the borough. The money wasn't then, hey, we have the money, we'll either tear it down or we'll give it to you. No, it was very specific offer to do demolition and demolition and flattening of the land. It wasn't like credit towards anything else. So that's a gift to us. We did look into the mouth and realize that it's a nag, not a stag, So maybe it's time to make that glue.
Dave, translate what you're saying. Are you saying?
No, I'm saying Cooley's not worth, Cooley's not worth,
No, I got that.
it's almost a
Here's
full
my
moon.
question. Here's
So
my
you gotta get it, you gotta take the bitter with the better. When I talk.
Let me just make sure that the borough was originally, in our agreement, supposed to be responsible for the tear down and demolition of Cooley
And they
Hall.
still will be,
Perfect, that's all I wanted to.
yes. All we have to do is say, yes, we don't want it, and they'll take it. When they demolish the rest, when they demolish the day school, the Lindens, all the stuff on the other side, all the equipment's there, just come by and they tear down Cooley.
So what are next steps? Do we just wait until they say they're ready? I mean, do we push this forward?
Well, we'll talk to them. They know we're ready. We'll ultimately, I guess we'll have a final vote because we have new board members. I don't think we can.
No, we don't. We've already gone through.
Do we?
Yeah, the discussion I would have is giving everybody an opportunity if they really didn't agree anymore to rescind.
Yeah.
But
I just wonder because you're not supposed to bind a future board to a contract. I don't know. We'll look into it. We'll make sure we don't have to do anything. But Dave's got the essence of it. If people have a problem, let us know so we can communicate. But it was important to re-inform you and first time inform new board members what we're doing.
I will add, because you went through it and it's not really salvageable, I think it's an eyesore and I think it's dangerous, even for the kids that should not be there in the first place. Someone could get hurt. My point is if we're gonna eventually have them knock it down, I would like to push the borough to knock it down sooner rather than later and make it clean.
for Hobbit fans, I always call it the Shire because the ceiling is so terrible. I mean, the roof is so terrible, it almost looks like, the land of the Hobbits.
Can I bring up something else that you brought up? Maintaining the historic buildings. Is there something we could do with the borough to, I don't know, get their help in affording that so that they're preserved, but maybe not necessarily our responsibility?
Well, when the environmental science group, so you got to understand, so when the environmental science group was using it, moss does not grow under Ron Smith. And he had put into action a fundraiser to come up with the funds to make the repairs to the greenhouse. And we had to actively shut that down because we didn't own the property. I don't think there's it's a stretch to say that there aren't very interested people to keep the greenhouse going. The carriage house, there are opportunities afoot. I mean, Adam talked about last time a presentation from Host to put funds in to make that a space for artist in residence program or sculpture in residence or something like that. That'd be something for up to our decide, but there's a building that has another opportunity. There's no reason we couldn't once we own it. Plus, we're getting better at grant writing as a district where, we now have more administrators to help and historic properties. So those that have just that natural inclination to save, protect, and not just save and protect, but keep use of historic buildings, there's a lot of grant writing opportunities there for money. So, but in realization, we take it part and part, in for a penny, in for a pound when it comes to taking ownership of the land. We've already agreed that we take ownership of those buildings.
Here's the point though, if it's going to be ours and we're gonna be looking for grants, the longer that they sit there without maintenance, the more.
Yeah, we got 100%.
Yeah, I
We should
wanna,
move on this.
yeah.
Totally.
And that was the encouragement in the first place, about, let's light a fire under the borough to wrap it up. They are under unique constraints, if they would have gotten it wrapped up, they would have already had it wrapped up. They don't want to stretch it out any longer than we do.
No, they're hitting pretty solid wall as we spoke.
What's the wall that they're having, like, why can't we move forward?
There's an easement, so, and Mike can fill in details, but as I understand it, the gravel parking lot that we get, access road to it is going to be part of Lowworth Hall. So the SHPA has to give them an easement so that they can do that. And I guess SHPA is giving them is making that more difficult than it seems it should be. So they thought on a couple occasions that this was solved and then came back with, oh no, we have to check this out, check that out. So I think their frustration, well, last time we met with them, their frustrations felt as great as our frustration.
Is that easement coming on from Kings Highway into the
No, it's from
parking lot?
Hopkins.
Oh, into that.
Into there.
It's another curb cut. Yeah. All right.
The last thing I'll add on that whole blue halls, if I understood our past discussions before, the thought was if we were gonna build like tomorrow, the cost of doing the renovation, following the renovation is gonna be so much cheaper than tearing it down. And so if we knew in a year from now, we were gonna need that property to build something, then we would say, you know what, let's maintain it for a year because we're gonna have substantial savings. But right now, we don't see an immediate need to go ahead, right, and build. So it feels like the right thing to just have them go ahead and demolish it because we require a referendum. Who's doing the referendum right now, right?
Right. Plus, you were saying today, because of the tour, you don't think it's as valuable to salvage
That's
as
right.
you might have previously.
That's right.
Okay, so it's no longer.
Yeah, I'm saying even if.
It's no longer a cherry on top.
Even if it was in complete disrepair, where you're
It does
all
work.
done purposes, you're tearing it down, just the savings of renovation versus a new build. As I understand from our past discussion, would be so substantial.
I don't know if those savings would be substantial.
Yes, there's still a foundation. If we were to build, it would be cheaper, but we have no
It's a
need for additional
25 and
44,000 square feet.
million. Right.
So like 8 million to refurb, and these are real soft numbers. Frankly, we didn't spend the money to get the hard number, but it cost tens of thousands of dollars to actually find out what it would cost. But we asked our, give us some ballpark numbers so we can make those long-term decisions. It also came to play. One of the reasons we're doing the LRFP before the COVID changed the game. Anyway.
Feels like we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Tatum ended up being more expensive to repair than if we had.
Okay.
Yes, as Heather was saying, Tatum cost more to repair than to replace, but we weren't going to go there.
Well, we also didn't know that when we first got into repairing Tatum. It was supposed to be more simple, and after they started repairing it, they discovered more problems. So,
And
sometimes.
Heather, I'm not just talking about the dollars, I'm talking about like the savings, whether it's state money,
Yeah.
taxes, it's all that.
Yeah, and I wasn't challenging. I thought I had heard something opposite, so I'm glad we clarified.
Well, we have gotten to the point in our
Thank you,
agenda.
Adam.
Oh, well, yeah. Well,
Yes.
We've gotten to the point in our agenda where we take public comments from the public. These comments, because of the nature of our meetings now, we put our public comments in the middle. You can comment on anything, the agenda or items of concern or interest. I'm going to ask Tim to switch our YouTube channel to the slide, or John, sorry, so that we can, I'll remind people who want to call in, dial in, hit *6 to mute. When I call your number, I'm going to call your telephone number, area code, and last 2 digits. When I do that, I will unmute your phone, *6. Please say your name, just the street that you live on, and then your comment. So we'll give it a minute for calls to come in. People have to dial and get into the system. I am freezing. Bundle your children tomorrow and make layers and two sets of socks.
As the father of a tough and short-wearing guy. He regretted his short decision this morning. I'm sure he will be in sweatpants tomorrow.
We'll learn. Okay, so I'm gonna call, we got a caller at 609 ending in 93.
Hey everyone, it's Sean Sweeney. I just wanted to call in a couple quick things. I wanted to comment on Linda. I think it was you who commented that the teachers are probably swamped and haven't gotten to the HET grants. You're absolutely right. Teachers are swamped. Extra time is few and far between. Sorry, I just heard myself on my headphones. I had to turn it off. I wanted to take a second and say that, I know with negotiations, we are close. We were hoping to get it done tonight, but we were off by just a little bit with one little hiccup, but I think that should be worked out shortly. So again, I appreciate Tom and Adam, and especially Mike working really hard to work through those things. I also wanted to thank Chuck. I know Chuck's been working really hard. Him, the building administrators. This is a tough time, and Rachel and I have watched them sprint through this. It's been difficult, challenging, and I think they're doing an outstanding job in meeting all the demands and trying to make these tough decisions with so much going on. The only other thing I wanted to quickly touch on was the teachers. The teachers are working their tails off. There is very little time throughout the course of the day. I know they are all working extremely hard. I want to give kudos to them because they are really working hard, working harder than they normally do because the amount of work that's required, taking a regular lesson, teaching that lesson, and making it virtual at the same time at the elementary level, and then making all these different amendments or changes to their lessons at high school and middle school it's a lot of work. So I want to give a shout out to the teachers who are busting their butts to make this work, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. I would reciprocate by saying, as one talk about tough decisions you're making, that Sean and Rachel have been great to work with. We talk, I think, every day, and it's always what I can't tell you how many times I say, what do you need help with? And I agree too. The teachers are working their blanks off.
All right, for people that don't know, Sean, Sean is one of the co-presidents of the HEA, Sean and Rachel. So thank you for following Sean. Not seeing any others. Give another minute. All right, we will go through our agenda now. Close public comment section. We're going to go with governance. We are going to approve our fire and safety drill report for September of 2020. School bus emergency evacuation drills for our schools, all of our schools. We have 17 policies for first reading, and we're going to be accepting our monthly HIV report, which was submitted by Gina Priolo. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. David and Justin. Let's have some discussion, shall we?
Not a discussion on the report, but just a discussion that, the world doesn't stop. And from Chuck, can you just give 2 words on the drills and that we really don't have flexibility there?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, as you think about things logically, right? So we have cohorts in half days, it's less time in school, and then the fire drill happens. And the frustration say, can't we just get rid of the fire drill? We cannot, right? These are state mandates. As a matter of fact, in the wisdom of the state, each cohort has to have a fire drill. So whereas you usually have to have 1 drill a month, fire drill, you now have to have 2 in each building, plus an additional safety drill. Sandy, who's all over this, she does a great job, has been really communicating what has to be done. And we have taken certain drills. I think this month's drill, November's drill, every month has a fire drill and an additional safety drill. But I believe November's drill is going to be a test of communication. So there'll be the fire drill, but there won't be a bomb threat drill where the kids have to leave the building. We'll test our communications to parents. So you are seeing some of those. We had fewer, where the kids are doing 2 drills a month. Now it's like 1 for them and 1 for us. But we have no say in these drills. I'm sure the one that we're all dreading, and I'm hoping the state will think this through, would be a lockdown drill where people are supposed to huddle in a corner, which I can't imagine the state would make us do at this point in time. I know Sandy's expressed that to the people, but that's we cannot stop the drills, and there's a lot of reasons for it from the naysayers, but I believe I saw the statistics that since schools have mandated fire drills, there's no child has died in a school fire. you know, shows the effectiveness and so anyway, we cannot stop.
Thank you,
Chuck and Gino, I see we have one item on our HIB report for this month. Are the students encouraged? I mean, I assume that through the online portions of the day, that maybe there could be some incidents. Kids are still encouraged and advised about the system and how that works, and know that it applies online as much as it does.
I believe so, but that would be a good thing to follow up just so that they're aware, right? And I think actually the HIB we had was not during school hours.
Okay.
And I think Adam addressed the social media earlier. You see more of that now, right? That a lot of the aggressive behavior doesn't end the school day. I mean, that's one of the things with social media. If you look back at the evolution, if there were someone who made you uncomfortable at school at 3 o'clock, you would go home, it was over. It's not the case anymore. There's more open game in the evenings, and but to the point in now that Google has breakout rooms and those type of things, the awareness that this is still inappropriate behavior to be addressed is a good one.
Any other discussion? Okay, not hearing any. Mike, you want to call?
Ms. Hoag.
Yes.
Ms. Paoli.
Yes.
Ms. Hogarth.
Yes.
Mr. Bedford.
Yes.
Vice President Seidel.
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio.
Yes.
Ms. Crockett.
Yes.
President Sangello.
Yes. Okay. Section 11, curriculum and special ed. We're approving field trips, conferences, and travel, approving a textbook, approving Cooper Health System to provide reading services. We are providing Family First to provide RDI services. We're resolving between Kingsway and to provide with Kingsway to provide after-school consulting services. We have an individual student resolution for homebound instruction. We have Temple University Child and Adolescent Anxiety Disorders Clinic will be providing services for the district. Another student to be working with Kingsway. We're resolving to approve the gifted and talented consulting support. We're approving with Rowan to be a partnership in our equity, education and equity and research, the peer group. And we're acknowledging the winter season athletic changes to begin on December 3rd based on the NJSIAA COVID-19 return to play update. We're approving our nursing services plan, the South Jersey Perinatal Cooperative to provide nursing services in our non-public schools. And we're approving a settlement for settlement agreement with a specific student, which we are updated in exec session about. Can I get a motion? Lynn.
Second.
Oh, Linda. My goodness, that was a quiet one.
Sorry.
All right, discussion.
I had a question for Kay with the return to play update. Is that contingent on our color for?
That would be contingent on the NJSAA and the governor of New Jersey. So at this point in time, the NJSA put a plan in place, and the governor has approved that plan to move forward, so we can have indoor sports. The NJSA tweeted out earlier today that the plan is preliminary and still in progress. And I'm not sure it's because they think it might not happen, or there were newspaper reports came out about championship seasons, which hadn't been decided yet. So I'm not sure what they were trying to clarify with that tweet. But that is based on those two, the NJSA and the governor's approval of their plan.
Thank
Any other-
I had for M, if anyone else has any. Is that for the non-public schools? Is that something where we're doing the pass-through money? Or, okay, just so clarify for other people who are listening. So that's not, we kind of are the carers of that money, and then we pass it on to the non-public schools.
Any other discussion?
I'll just point out, because it was discussed earlier, the gifted and talented consultant support is in this section. Because as Ms. Bailey had talked about, you know, how do they get extra services? That's part of this.
Okay. Motion, roll.
Ms. Paoli,
Yes.
Ms. Hogarth,
Yes.
Mr. Benford,
Yes.
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio,
Yes.
Ms. Crooked,
Yes.
Ms. Hoag,
Yes.
President Sangelo.
Yes. Okay, we're approving new personnel number 12, personnel, new personnel transfers, salary upgrades, mentoring, things that have to do with employment in the district. We're extending the employment of retroactively the interim principal local B to cover for Mr. Bissinger's leave. We are approving social studies needs assessment committee. We have teachers working to review our social studies curriculum. Same for us, we're approving to have employees work on our school-based SEL implementation. So the teams to work on that. We're approving a volunteer in the HMHS athletic office. We are resolving to change the full-time equivalent of a Haddon EA. Can I get a motion? Motion. Justin.
Second.
David. Discussion?
I didn't realize that 12A was changed since I last looked at it. I can see that there's an area in yellow in the document itself, but I can't seem to open that document. I don't know why. What was that?
It's the effective date of the middle school long-term substitute for special education.
Okay.
The effective date now is October 25th through the end of the school year, 6/18. Sure. Hi, go ahead.
I have a question about the social studies assessment. With all of our recent conversations with the town hall and looking toward how do we assess things better? How do we make sure that history, social studies is really taking a broader look at what's actually being taught? I'm assuming that is all part of.
That's all part of it. They're coming, you can speak to a tool we have.
Yeah, I'd love to talk. There's a tool that allows you to assess any curricular materials or curriculum in general, and it asks certain questions like about representation. How many people of color are authors? If you have 10 authors, you probably should have at least one person of color author. And then it's also about representation in the textual materials. So, for instance, one of the questions asks you, is there depth to the character, or are they simple, one-sided caricatures that you might see out of an old TV show where there's no depth and it's not like a real person. So we're going to have our first meeting after break, but we have already started the work. The committee's kind of already started the work. We have 10 different frameworks from around the country, Massachusetts, California, some national frameworks that each participant is going to research on and present, and we're going to start with the frameworks. But that is a heavy focus, is making sure that, and so Carmen is on that committee as well, and a couple of people are probably going to be on the Equity Council as well, so it'd be a really nice crossover. Thank you for that.
No, and I mean, I know that we have talked about this a little bit, and some of the things you mentioned are great, but really looking into the depth of the content. I thought that the one young lady who was on the town hall, who talked about, you learned about slavery, it happened, it's over, and what's the next thing, and truly understanding what's the content that's being taught, in addition to the things that you mentioned. So that will all be part
It
of it.
will, and I probably should say that it's gonna be a heavy civics focus, so that'll make it by necessity, it has to be relatable. And so a lot of the forward-thinking frameworks that we're looking at, they are heavy civics based, where the kids are actually engaging in today's real world problems. And, again, how you connect it to slavery, well, that's what's going on today. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Are there, I know we're restricted in ways because of the New Jersey curriculum. And, the chronological order that they have of the curriculum, it can be limiting. Is there flexibility? I honestly haven't looked at the curriculum very recently, but I'm just thinking that there are different ways to rework the program? Do they have the, to not limit it to a chronological US 1? Is there a way to be able to kind of think outside the box?
Yeah, I think that's gonna be our hardest but most exciting question, frankly. I reached out to the county ed specialist and she gave us the framework, but it's a non-tested subject area. And so because of that, you do have a little bit more flexibility. And New Jersey's framework is kind of flexible. It's not as rigid as you might imagine. So that's why, we're exploring some of the other frameworks to see.
Yeah, because one of the things that came to mind during the town hall, which, you guys did great on that, so thank you. But one of the things I'm thinking of is people are willingly, they really want to help. And if we feel in ways that the curriculum needs to be updated or changed, that's something where people can write letters. And I used to work on curriculum in the Department of Education, and we really did revise it according to what the needs of communities were. And I think that's something where, if you reach out even to me and I or actually the people on the committee and the Equity Council, I know will be interested, but writing letters and seeing how they can change the requirements, if that's something that we don't find useful, I think that's something that's possible for people who want to get involved.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'm going to add you to the list officially. But yeah, we have a really impressive group of people that are highly educated in this area. So I'm so excited about
Oh, that's great. I'm excited. That'll be great.
Thank
And no, you go ahead, Chuck.
If I could, we have a retirement, Carla O'Hara, high school guidance counselor, outstanding professional, wonderful person, very warm. Carla's, I've always gone personally. Carla's one of sometimes I was having a bad day, but sit and talk with her a little bit. She was always good. But I think, a good, warm human being. She knew her students. I think if we would go up to her and say, tell me about X, Y, or Z, and she had the end of the alphabet, that's inappropriate. But she knew her students really, really well. And it's hard sometimes when you have so many students and they're coming through and you get 3 grades. But she was great at her job. She understood things. She was the one, she's the person you want with you. If you have a plan, you want someone to say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? She had that great mind where she asked those great questions. She's a great person. She's going to be missed. And I wish her well in the next stages of life.
Now for something very mundane. Mike, could you please describe what shared means for Stuart Holloway, football assistant coach? Is that we're sharing the cost, or he's being shared amongst varsity, JV, and freshmen?
Split. So you have 2 coaches sharing 1 salary.
It's just I've never. It usually mentions the other person if it's a shared situation. It just says shared for him, and it's shared twice. Shared as a coach and shared as an amount labeled in the document. That's the first time I've seen it like that.
Yeah, it's
Split with someone else that we've already approved in a previous one that I just missed. Yep. Fair enough. Thank you.
For D, is that the ruler? The school-based SEL implementation teams, are they working with ruler?
That's correct.
Okay.
Those are our people who receive the formal trainer training through Yale University.
Okay, good. So that's moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking, because I did my first 2 courses, it was great. And it did say on there that the community, and I know we're at different stages at this, but it would be something where I just think the community might benefit from doing the training as well, parents or, people with, like, is that a possibility that we?
I don't know. Those training modules are just for faculty and staff.
Okay.
And our ruler teams have been rolling out information to families. That's really part of our phase 4, which will begin around the new year. We will be actively engaging them in the ruler tools of emotional intelligence. But those training modules, I don't believe, I'll double check, but I don't believe that they were designed for parents.
The questions were a little hard, I gotta say. Did anyone else do it? I was like, ooh, I was embarrassed by some of those. Yeah, it was good. Thank you.
Any other comments on 12? If no, okay. Mike?
Ms. Hogarth.
Yes.
Mr. Benefit.
Yes.
Vice President Seidel.
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio.
Yes.
Ms. Crockett.
Yes.
Ms. Hoag.
Yes.
Ms. Paoli.
Yes.
President Sandillo.
Yes. Okay, 13, business and finance recommendations. We're approving tuition reimbursement. We're approving a $6,000 donation. We're approving two physical donations. We're approving our annual maintenance budget worksheet and the comprehensive maintenance plan. We're approving the Inspire Health Network to provide drug screening, Cumberland Therapy Services to provide substitute paraprofessional services. We're acknowledging receipt of the budget calendar for the 21-22 school year. We are approving Judith Wilson to work with Superintendent Klaus on the portrait and our whole system on a portrait of the graduate. We're approving Thomson Reuters to provide clear investigative research services. We are going out for RFP for health benefits broker, labor council, and property and casualty insurance. We are approving a memorandum of understanding between the board and the police department for access to our cameras. We are submitting 2 grants, one both under the Securing Our Children's Future Bond, one for security and one for water infrastructure. We're approving the Emergency SSO Food Service Management Company for breakfast. We're approving to use Zebra Pay to process services for the payment services for athletic officials. We're approving our payment of bills, our budget transfers, the board's secretary report, and a cash summary report. Motion.
Motion.
Jamie. Second by Lynn. Oh. Discussion. Go ahead, Lynn.
For 13E, the drug screening, so that we verified that they do differentiate between CBD and marijuana?
Yes, they do. They
Okay.
test for THC.
From a budget standpoint, with the, that's future business. Never mind.
Okay. Michael.
Mr. Benford.
Yes.
Vice President Seidel.
Yes.
Mr.
Oh,
Vecchio.
and with a thank you to the anonymous donor.
Mr. Vecchio.
Yes.
Ms. Crockett.
Yes.
Ms. Hoag.
Yes.
Ms. Paoli.
Yes.
Ms. Hogarth.
Yes.
President Sandillo.
Yes, with a thank you to the anonymous donor and a thank you to the 2 non-anonymous donors. Okay. And in all sincerity, yeah, those things, those are great to get. Not just, we're constantly seeing that stuff pop up, so we're grateful. Whole system. Okay, 14, approval of meeting minutes, September 17th, regular and executive, and the regular meeting from September 24th. Motion?
Yeah.
David.
Second.
Justin. Anybody have anything about those meeting minutes? Mike?
Thorough as usual.
Yeah.
Vice President Seidel,
Yes.
Mr. Vecchio,
Yes.
Ms. Brooking,
Yes.
Ms. Hoag,
Yes.
Ms. Paoli,
Yes.
Ms. Cogerlo,
Yes.
Mr. Benford,
Yes.
President Sandillo.
Yes. Okay, we will, just 2 weeks until our next meeting, getting, compressed because of the holidays to the 12th, and then the week after that is the week before Thanksgiving, the 19th.
And then December's an all meeting too.
December is early and only one, so we have a meeting on December 10th, so, we will be, we have 3 more meetings left this year. Any other items for future consideration?
Good luck to the 3 candidates on the ballot, the only 3 candidates on the ballot.
That's right.
May you have already voted for yourselves and won. But it's serious, it's an item of future consideration. So speaking of elections, in anticipation of a successful referendum on recreational marijuana, yeah, Chuck, so this is more of a budget question. I think, would we start to have the discussion of a budget exercise for things like testing, sensors, counseling?
We can have a discussion. I think the bigger concern as far as sensors goes, I think the edibles are a greater challenge than anything else, right? So
it would be really obvious if they've done.
Well, yes and no, right? Because they're going to be hard because you're going to come in with a bag of gummy bears, and so that's a challenge. But I mean, we'll have to have that discussion. We'll talk with Tammy and Tracy.
But more the counseling,
and unfortunately, we probably got we include the elementary school principals in that same conversation, right? It is going to be a challenge with, I think it's more specifically the edibles, right? So we know we have the vape detectors now in the bathroom, so then they do detect THC too, so we get hits. We have gotten hits on those, but it will make some of those aspects a little more challenging.
I wonder if there will be future policies coming down, for example, like gummy bears, that you can only eat them in school if you come in with a prepackaged bag that's not of a brand.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like a high school kid, by the time you see them at lunch, they may have opened it already.
Yeah, and that in my mind, I'm suggesting that the policy is not allowed if it's going to be too confusing to tell them apart.
Yeah, I mean, the other side, I mean, that is.
Something to think about.
The other side of that is, do we make a rule because 5 kids might be bad? I mean, but it is worrisome. And sometimes when you first hear these things become illegal, as a former building administrator, you go right away to, oh my God, everyone's been running around with gummies.
Yeah, I mean,
and
bring
probably not
alcohol
the
and
kids
bottles,
doing it
so.
now. The kids who would be doing it then probably are doing it now anyway, right? I mean, the reality of it is that just because it's not legal doesn't mean kids aren't using that now. But it is something we need to think about how we address those issues, because it will be more accessible. For any of us who are old enough to remember when the drinking age in New Jersey was 18. I mean, if you think about what that means, right? So your high school seniors are legal to drink, and they are sitting in class next to 14-year-olds, right? So that's why that becomes so accessible. Now this will be 21, but still the access will be with siblings and stuff. So kids going through college will be greater. That's a lot.
And the social stigma will be decreasing over time. And that's why I talked about it almost as a budget item, to start preparing for additional resources in physical resources, counseling resources, educational opportunities for.
I think that's why I think when I said you guys include the elementary school principals too.
Yeah.
Like everything, the education starts when you're younger the better. I mean, that was one of the comments with the town hall meeting about when I talked about hiring people of color. The comments were, my second grader notices this type of stuff right now. That's a big thing that you understand, that being isolated at lunch is not a third grade issue. That's a human being issue. And making bad decisions isn't a high school issue. It's all the kids from pre-K to 12. I remember my extensive 10-month career as an elementary school principal. I left there and said, that saying, little kids, little problems, big kids, little big problems, is so wrong. Right? It's the most inaccurate statement I've ever heard in my life, because when you're 8, that's a big, that someone not being nice at the lunch table is as big a problem as there is in the world, right? So it is a universal thing we have to address.
Thanks.
Any other items? Motion to close? Linda? Lynn, covers in the books. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, going there every day in high school.
What do you say?